Okay, seems managed to go live again. Seems the chat is working today. So I'm going to go through these 4 games from the 9th round. And we'll see how that works. Now the board is there. That's good. Okay, so in the first game I'm going to show, Alexandra against Kawana, we had what we have seen so often before in top tournaments. These last 2 years, the Italian. And there was sort of a new direction, d4. There was a blitz game in my database, but otherwise not really played. This was a new idea. a4, a5. And there was this pawn sacrifice, basically. The white tried to sacrifice a pawn, and black could take it any which way. And the position was fairly level. White chose to take back the pawn, like this. We got basically an equal position. And here white tried to go a little bit too hard for it. Instead of bringing in the pieces, exchanging the queen and going for a level position, he tried to create some attack on the king side. And there was a few inaccuracies from both sides, as there always is when you analyze with a computer. But sort of the key moment here was a situation where white is losing the a-pawn, but should have played for a compensation on the queen side with knight h2. The knight, of course, going to g4, e3 later, but the pieces come around here, and now knight g4 to e3 or knight f1 to g3. And basically, black's position is quite open. White's very harmonious. The extra pawn probably not enough for an advantage. Which gave Kawana the chance to actually at this point steal the pawn. And that was the moment of the game. And for sure, white has some counterplay here, but the black pieces are better organized than in the line we saw before. The bishop on c1 doesn't do anything there, and that's the big difference. It's simply lost tempo. And Kawana is better, according to the machine. How much better is hard to evaluate. For sure, it would have been a tough game. But this was it. Later on, there was some exchanges on c5, and we got a rook ending, and there was no real winning chances. Later on, white got counterplay with the e-pawn. Hi, Jeremy, Kushal, and Ellie, and all my friends. Okay, in the next game, Grischuk tried this very rare line, h3 rather than bishop e2 against the Grünfeld. And there was sort of one moment in the game that was slightly interesting, which was here, where Nepomniachtchi could have played knight a5. And he could get a tempo up on a well-known variation, which is slightly dubious. But here it's playable for black. White normally has bishop e2 in this position, but here he does not. But he played really the correct way to play, which was he played knight d4. If queen d4, then e6. After bishop c4, he played e5, which also equalizes. And black had no problems, and the game was drawn rather uneventfully. Then we have the game between Giri and Wang Hao, which will be my game of the day on uschess.org, where I will annotate it, and it will be available for either reading online, or you can download a PDF with it. And this game was really very eventful and very interesting. And I'm just going to show a few moments, just so you have a feeling of it. So we start with this kind of Catalan position, which is very solid for black. I think white has done well to keep the knight rather than the bishop. I don't think the bishop on f3, after black takes on f3, is worth much. He played this new idea h3. So the idea is very simple. He wants to play king h2, rook g1, and sort of threaten to threaten something. Is it something for real? No, but black has to find a way to react, and it's not very pleasant to have to sit and see what white can put up here and how dangerous it really is. And I think white has a little advantage here, at least in practical terms. Black will have to do something something. Hi, Kirk and Robert. So the question, important victory slip from Fabi? I don't think. He had one moment where he could have taken risks and computer favors him, but I wouldn't say he really had a chance to win the game. But so here, what Wang Hao did was he played queen b6 and c5. And the weakening of the b5 square and by extension the a5 pawn is just bad. And very quick we get into this nice little moment here where white could play queen b5, but also takes here was very strong, because if black takes back with the rook, then queen b5. We see queen takes, a takes, and the a pawn will hang. Queen c7, knight c4, and the a pawn is doomed. So that was quite a nice little finesse. It's not necessarily the strongest code in the computer. I think it's equal, queen b5. But here, white got some real advantage. And here we're talking an advantage. We're not talking a huge advantage, but it's a real advantage. And black has to play accurate to defend. And we had this position here where h6 was, in my opinion, a little slip. Rook d8, preventing queen d7, and the position is unpleasant, but that's all that's happening. He played h6, queen d7 came, dominating a little bit. Very natural move, knight f6, and here comes first of many sensational ways for black to save the game. So if knight b6, queen d8, you see knight f7 and you just don't want to go there. But actually, if you know that you're under pressure, you know you have to produce something extra to make a draw. And in this case, this was it, because after this pin, which can only be unpinned with rook b7, check, and here black has a very important move, queen f3. And the double threat makes it obvious white has to take here, and it's a perpetual. So this was sort of the first chance to really save the game after he got in trouble here with this h6. So knight f6, queen d6, and it's an unpleasant position. It's very difficult to play, but here Wang Hao played really a very bad move. It's not the worst of the day, but he played a very bad move, which was g6. Here the king position is just fatally weakened by that, and he really needed the support of the knight. And we will see very soon that he gets under a lot of attack on the long diagonal. So queen e8 and b5 was best, but the a pawn is still very weak here, and this position is by no means holding for black in practical play. Geary is in his element. It is exactly what it is. So do I think that Wang Hao missed rook f7? No. I think simply he saw knight f7 and the idea rook c7, queen b6, and just threw away the line. Okay, so there was some ways for white here to play more accurate. Queen b6 with the idea rook c7 was very strong. But the really interesting moment comes here. He plays this b4 idea, which is not really working, but it's very natural. And here comes another moment, and I know you can see at the bottom of the screen the right moves. I'm not going to try to give you questions because there's a lag here. But here black had this fantastic way of saving the game. Rook d1, rook takes b4. Here you can also play b6, but after rook b6, still queen d8 is just transposition. So here, and black gives up everything. And it's really an amazing line. And okay, I think if you have a feeling that it's there, you can find it. But it's just, in practice, it's just very difficult. And we saw this also in the last candidates, and when these guys are under pressure, they don't find these things. It just doesn't really happen to them. We could debate why that is another day. Okay, so here came rook b4. And here, queen d6 was a much more human way of trying to save the game. White should play queen b3, and he'll be a pawn up. And there's some other lines which are quite fun. But he played queen a7, which is just horrible. And white came in, and here rook a7 was nice. Of course, we don't go for this endgame. It's probably winning for white, but there's just no need. Rook a7, and he was totally out of chess. And here now rook a8 was threatened as well, and he just resigned. So many things. For example, if you play rook b5, we just take it. Okay. So the last game of the day is a shocker. So we had this h4 line against the Grinfeld, and we get a quite normal position, except the pawn is on h5. And the thing is, there's no way for the queen to come in and deliver an attack, and black can always play rook e8. So he should have castled. I didn't like this very much, but it wasn't bad. So here, bishop g5, must take on c3. Everything else was somewhat unpleasant. And we get this funny position here. And here we saw really bad move from Yekaterinburg, which was knight ge5. I don't understand it. If you put the other knight on e5, there's no drawback. Worst case, you can always play knight h6. There's no reason to leave the knight on d7. It's just weird. So this, yeah, this is quite bad. Of course, there's a concrete reason why it's bad, and the concrete reason is knight d4. Now, if the knight, as you saw here, is on g4, then there's no big problem. We castle, everything's fine. Now, there's huge problems. So I must take, and Yekaterinburg here was thinking his best chance was to return the piece. He made a draw, so you could argue he's right. But it's a very weak argument. It's a sort of after the fact. We cannot plan for the opponent to blunder. And if he was blundering in an unclear position where something like this, where white has a good compensation for the piece and white blunders, and black wins. So relatives, this was horrible. Horrible decision. And we had a situation where black's under a lot of pressure, white has the good pieces, black has all the weaknesses, king's open. He played knight e4, and then he had to exchange things and had to take with the wrong pawn because the rook's on b7 hanging here. First chance to win directly was rook f3 and queen b1. Come to g6. Here, and the rook penetrates, and queen comes to f5 and or b5. It's just wins. And there was sort of a few moments. Here also a few moves later, you can see that he had a chance for calculating a line. Which went like this. Black has to take with the rook on f2 to create counterplay, and then white has a nice winning line, which is, I don't think it's so difficult to calculate. And yeah, there's just nothing here. But what was really the horrendous moment was here. White is still winning in the long term. Played, I don't know, rook d2 or something. He was maybe unhappy with something that black could offer some resistance. I don't know, but he just blundered the pawn. It was just horrific. Rook d6. I don't know if he had planned queen d2 and then suddenly realized this. I just don't know. But queen d2, there's also rook d7. It looks like he just blundered the pawn. So I will have to see the press conference to get answers to that. And maybe white can still play for a win here, but reality is that the moment has gone, the chance has slipped, and MVL is still in shared second. I think somewhere have the score for the day, but I am not succeeding. I think here we are. Let's see. I'm succeeding putting it in here. This is not very high tech, but here we are. Of course, stolen straight from Chess24, where I'm following the tournament, and I highly recommend anyone else to do it. So we see Nepomniachtchi is leading, and Caruana, Vachier-Lagrave, and Giri all have a reasonable chance of winning the tournament as well. And that's it. We'll see if I can manage to end this broadcast, and I hope this was fine. So a question here from the chat from Kirk. These are some really unusual mistakes for their level. Too much online chess caused this. I wouldn't really blame online chess. For sure, the level is lower because they haven't had the usual 6-7 classical tournaments during the year. But I actually think it's an overemphasizing on openings. I do think that's sort of a culprit, that they're spending all their time analyzing openings, and everyone is talking about their preparation for these tournaments as finding ideas and openings in preparation. It doesn't sound like anyone is actually preparing to play good chess. The exception might be Nepomniachtchi. I think that's why he's in the lead. That's why he did well in the first half. He didn't have anything special in the opening. They had some small ideas. But the main thing is he played well. He played good moves. And I also think that's what you will see from the winner at the end of the tournament. It is certainly what you saw in 2018 in Berlin, where Caruana didn't really excel in the opening, but he played really good chess. And the same was the case with kayaking in 2018 and also in 2016. I'm not sure the players are going to find their best form, Kushal. Not in this tournament, but hopefully the winner will find excellent form to play with Magnus for the World Championship in Dubai at the end of the year. Okay, so this was it, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.